We'll make sure that there's opportunities for questions. Perfect. And now this meeting is recorded, which is great. The other stage I want to set is we're going to do a little bit of looking back as some highlights of things that we've done. And we're going to do that in context of our overall strategy and vision. And then we'll also give you some teasers of looking forward. But again, this is not inclusive of everything we're doing or have done. We just wanted to exemplify what our philosophy and our belief and our strategy is through some concrete examples. So this is not all encompassing. This is just some highlights and things we wanted to share with you. Joining me are Jared Stein and Shaun Moon. They are the masterminds behind Canvas and Canvas as a product and our vision in higher education. And with that, I'm turning it over to Jared, and they're going to tag team throughout this conversation.
Hey, thank you, Melissa. And thank you, Shaun, for joining me. Thank you, everybody here at Unizin. We are so humbled and privileged to be here with you today, sharing a bit about our vision and how that's translating into the Canvas roadmap. So the vision that we have for Canvas, and this is what we will achieve if we plan appropriately and we execute on our goals, is that Canvas will help higher education transform teaching and learning into what I like to call an awesome experience for everyone, no matter where they are. And I believe we can achieve this vision by focusing on three main objectives. These are the pillars of Canvas that have guided our product strategy really from the beginning. And that first one that we will talk about today as a framework for our product conversation is that Canvas should tear down barriers. The second is that Canvas should build up learners. And the third is that Canvas should inspire innovators. So within this framework, as Melissa said, Shaun and I are going to recap some of the recent Canvas feature improvements and then highlight some of the things that are coming down the pipe. And then we're going to wrap up with some additional themes that we are intensely researching right now, and we would love to hear from you on those. So first, Shaun, set the stage for us. Explain a bit about how we product.
Yeah, thanks, Jared. Canvas and Instructure more generally, of course, is looking to understand the needs of the partners that we serve, the communities that we serve across the globe. And we have a lot of inputs to our product process that inform the things that we do and the decisions that we make, the priorities that we take at any given point in time. We, of course, are doing a lot of direct research as a product organization, talking with faculty, with administrators at institutions, and we're always looking for ways to improve the fidelity and integrity of that signal, as well as creative ways to get input in ways that are comfortable for our partner institutions to get feedback from students. So direct research with you is so foundational to the inputs to our product process. At the other end, of course, we do have leaders of our institution who have expertise, deep experience in higher education. And we rely on a lot of the vision that they provide for us. And everything in between that, the ways that folks are using Canvas and interacting with our support group, our community, which is vibrant and so active, gives us another opportunity to improve our product. And the direct relationships that you have with your customer success team and other partners in the ecosystem that we work with are so fundamental to the way we are looking to improve Canvas. And so what we do is we take that input and are looking at the ways that we can make improvements to Canvas right away, and also how we make those improvements over the long term. And as we communicate with our partners and with our customer institutions, we have a high degree of confidence in the things that are happening right away. The things that are committed for a given quarter, we of course have been working on validating those improvements and talking with you about those things. And we're doing research, discovery, and design for the things that will be coming out in the next quarter as well. And that's where we get that validation. we have things that we are looking to improve in the longer term, but we reserve a lot of space for being able to respond to emergent trends and to feedback as things evolve. So that's kind of what you see here in this step down approach to how we plan out our roadmap, and also how we think about the innovation outlook for years to come. You're muted, Jared.
Yeah, and this reflects the structure of how we're going to present today to some extent, right? Like, as we said, we're going to talk about some of the things that have been recently released, some of the things we're currently working on and we'll be working on next, and then wrapping up with some of the research themes that would probably extend into years 2, 3, and perhaps even beyond. So let's jump right into it. And I want to talk about some of the ways that Canvas can really help tear down barriers. So we always wanted Canvas to be more than just a place to share content and assignments, that Canvas should tear down barriers for instructors who have never taught with technology before, for students who need greater access and flexibility via online offerings, really between people who depend upon human interaction as part of the learning process, whether that's directly related to learning or part of the socialization that happens in our courses in our communities. And then finally, we want to tear down barriers even for technologists who want to innovate without permission. And we'll come back to that point toward the end. So looking back at the last 12 months, there've been a lot of releases in Canvas, and a lot of them inspired by the pandemic. So I'm going to start with a simple one. As the pandemic caused most institutions to close campus and switch to fully remote or hybrid learning, we were tasked with helping as many instructors as we could, and students who are new to Canvas, get oriented and get productive. So our product team, right as campuses started closing down, put some new effort into creating inline guides to better orient first-time users to Canvas, and that's what you're seeing here. We also recognized that there were many instructors who had already been using Canvas with their students for years and would likely have some awesome content and activities to share with their colleagues or their peers. And while Canvas Commons does facilitate that sharing, within and across institutions, we wanted to make the ability to share content or activities from a Canvas course faster and easier and even more conspicuous for designers and for instructors. And so we introduced this little feature so that from within your Canvas course, for activities that you've created, you can copy or share directly to another user or to another course shell that you're teaching from. So this is an idea that makes the content more liquid within the Canvas environment. So this is just a couple of real brief examples. Shaun, I know you're going to tell us about some of the upcoming releases, ways that we hope to tear down barriers even further.
Right, and one of the ways to do that is providing students with more variety in terms of the opportunity that they have to demonstrate their understanding of content. So a new annotation assignment type is something that will be coming out in this quarter, where faculty can provide a PDF or an image and give prompts to students to submit an assignment using annotations on that assignment, circling, using highlights and markup right onto an image-based document. So that kind of variety helps to make sure that different learning styles and approaches are also addressed for the variety of students and learners. Another thing that we're doing to remove impedances and tear down barriers is related to the discussions tool. Discussions and discussion forums are such an important part of shared learning experiences in learning communities, and we are refreshing Canvas discussions with more contemporary kind of helps around the things that you can do. So being able to have some flexibility around the sorting and presentation of posts, being able to mention other people in the learning community to give them highlights, and flexibility around due dates and even multiple due dates are things that are coming out this year. We're also working on a moderation framework for discussions that can also support anonymous participation in discussion posts. So that's
I know from the conversations I've had with Unizin members, discussions is priority one, and there's a lot of really great work planned. And I love how, on the one hand, this breaks down those barriers between students and their teachers in online communication. But some of the features you mentioned, like the ability to @mention individuals so that they're more deeply engaged or brought into parts of the thread, the ability to set some of those discussion checkpoints or due dates throughout a week or throughout a lesson, so that students they have a clear sense of when they need to engage, and it's not just sort of a one and done thing or a last minute thing. I love those features as an instructor because it does create a framework and a workflow, and I think it will simplify some of the tasks that teachers have engaging their students. And I think it actually ties into this second pillar or this objective, which is that we believe Canvas should build up learners. So even though Canvas is used by instructors and designers and their feedback tends to be the loudest and thus the most prioritized in our roadmap, we also believe it's our responsibility to think about Canvas from the learner perspective. And of course, the idea of putting oneself in the student's shoes is tremendously helpful when you're designing a course or teaching online for the first time. So this pillar really reflects that synergistic relationship between instructors and students and their peers. So when we say Canvas should build up learners, we mean giving learners the tools that they need to stay organized and on track, to encourage effective learning habits, but also by encouraging instructors to engage with students to provide more human feedback throughout the environment. So let me share a couple of recent examples, and then we'll again let Shaun share some of the things that are coming down the pipe. So Canvas, has made it so that students don't have to go into the LMS just to find out if there's something new. Canvas automatically sends out notifications to students and to instructors when something has changed, and this is based upon personal preferences and their modes of communication that they use most regularly. So last year, shortly after the pandemic hit, we added the ability for users to set course-specific notification preferences. And this is really important because, when there's a lot going on in Canvas, when instructors are adapting to online teaching and even changing schedules on the fly, the notifications students get can easily get noisy. And as we all know, what's noisy gets ignored. So these course level notification controls, they help the learners control the flow of the information to fit their preferences on a course by course basis, still using the different devices and modes of communication for those notifications that were already available to them, just really to fit their lifestyle and make it so that just because there's a lot of information coming from Canvas, they have the control over the flow, and the only option isn't just to turn it all off and ignore it. We also recognized, especially because of the pandemic, that a lot of our students, they were under greater pressure to adapt, just like our instructors were. Some of them might be overwhelmed or feeling overwhelmed by, the negative consequences of the virus and the lockdown. And while we can't solve that in its entirety, we did find one way that we can encourage what really is a fundamental and critical student activity in an online course, and that's on-time submission of assignments. So we introduced this really simple reinforcement that we call on-time assignment celebrations. So when a student turns an assignment in on time, they're going to get a semi-random celebration animation on screen. I know a lot of instructors heard this idea and thought, oh gosh, is that really that important? But it is, and students went absolutely nuts for this. So here are just some things that students said about what at the time was called Canvas confetti soon after it was released. This comes from Twitter, but there were entire Reddit threads about just this feature. One of the things that I love in these comments is that one of the students actually thought their instructor had created the celebrations themselves. Don't worry, we won't tell them. But this is, this is reflective of the fact that something simple like this, something attending to how the students are feeling, something that reinforces productive behavior or habits on the student's part can have a tremendous impact. And to support this, after launch, we conducted a cursory analysis that compared students in courses with assignments who were exposed to on-time celebrations versus those where it wasn't turned on. And even though this was not a formal research project, we did find a pretty significant difference between those groups. It was a difference of 1.5 standard deviations between students who were exposed to on-time celebrations and those who weren't. And it's a pretty big effect size. So basically, it was a way, at least, initially, looks like a way of both reinforcing that behavior and reducing future lateness. And related to that, some instructors who use assignments, it's not just to demonstrate understanding or ability, but it's also to facilitate students' mastery and continuous improvement through the use of feedback and dialogue in SpeedGrader. And that's part of why SpeedGrader's so important. But we saw a need to increase student awareness of both the feedback and the requirement to resubmit work in the assignment workflow. So the first step here was to make it easy for instructors to reassign work to a student in SpeedGrader, so that after an instructor had seen a student's work, they could prompt them, and this will appear in the to-do list and in student notifications, not just to look at the assignment feedback but to actually resubmit the work for additional review. And I classify this as a way of building up learners, because even though it's a simple workflow and improvement, it's going to foster that feedback loop, and it may actually encourage instructors to think about projects and assignments that are more formative than just summative, with a focus on improvement and outcomes and not just on scores. Shaun,
Yeah.
Online attendance reporting.
So
I put this in quotes.
Yeah, it is online attendance reporting, and this is a mechanism that we're looking to provide as a way to what I would say is partner with or enable faculty in their efforts to build up learners. So attendance is, as you all know, a bit of a simplistic measure. This is not a more sophisticated notion of participation, and certainly not engagement. The reason we're taking a first pass at this using a simplistic measure is because we're going to be providing institutions with a new rules-based kind of way to take raw information from around Canvas and aggregate it into higher order concepts. And even in the case of a higher order concept of attendance being somewhat simplistic, there is some technological development and innovation that we're doing to provide this flexibility for institutions. In the past, a decade ago, when data and reporting teams were looking to provide this kind of roll-up information for customers, they would often survey customers and try and aggregate what the most common points of need were. And in a lot of cases, that could satisfy any one given customer's needs, but left out some of the nuance for things that were relevant to other customers. By providing rules-based editors for higher order information concepts, we can empower institutions and over time empower even colleges and departments and even individual faculty with rules that will help them build up learners. So this is just a peek at what that editor might look like. And this is a view of what the Canvas attendance report would look like in the application. So showing the days when a given student met the criteria that were established in that rules editor for a given customer. Shows here for faculty to help them see if students are meeting a minimum bar for attending class. So that is, like I said, kind of a prerequisite or some groundwork that we're laying on a trajectory to provide richer understandings of student behavior and activity in Canvas.
Yeah, and it's not just about, you know, that richer understanding. It's also about the fundamental requirement that many institutions or programs have to report on attendance in fully online courses. And again, those requirements might vary institution to institution or state to state. So I really like the way that the product team has been thinking about this from the perspective of rules-based indications. And I also like that because, again, the more we can do to eliminate some of the busy work that individuals and institutions have in terms of gathering data and putting that data into a kind of model, I think that frees up more of our cognitive and creative space, mental space, to do the stuff that really, really matters, and that's really cool. So that takes us to our third pillar of our Canvas vision, and that's that Canvas should inspire innovators. Now, this is often thought of as Canvas enabling educational technologists, right, to innovate without permission, as I said earlier. And that's based upon our open platform capabilities, support for standards, open APIs, JavaScript and CSS, all that good stuff. But we also think about enabling institutions and departments and programs who are trying to grow blended learning and also to grow fully online programs. But I think most relevant for today's conversation is just the simple idea that Canvas should be encouraging innovation in instruction, encouraging instructors toward golden paths of course design and student engagement and sharing the awesome stuff that they're doing. So sometimes that's about enabling efficiencies. Sometimes that's about new features that are fundamentally designed to help instructors do more and to engage students in better ways. So we're going to start with one that's kind of on the former idea, just getting rid of some of the busy work. So we created a new time-saving bulk editing feature in assignments. And this was especially important for us to do during the pandemic season because a lot of instructors are experiencing these unexpected schedule changes and having to adapt as really the campus schedule may have been changing in real time. So what this does is it allows an instructor to go into their assignments that they've already created and adjust the due dates on the fly. That might be, you know, just manually adjusting due dates, or it might be bumping the entire set of due dates for the course ahead by 4 days, 10 days, 30 days, whatever might need to happen, and just getting that busy work out of the way so that teachers can focus on what matters most. Now, one of the education topics that I'm personally quite passionate about is the problem sort of exemplified here. A recent research study found that, you know, the majority of faculty and many department chairs would agree or strongly agree that the cost of course materials is a problem for students. And I don't want to say that this is something that you know, was amplified during the pandemic, but I think the pandemic shone a spotlight on a lot of student challenges that any one of which, you know, might cause them to disengage and even drop out. So one of the features that we added into Canvas Commons and released shortly after campuses shut down was the ability to both mark courses that you've shared to Commons as an open textbook, and then to find resources in Commons that are marked as open textbooks. So it's a pretty small thing, but we knew that, for example, the California Community Colleges working with OpenStax had revamped or refactored all of those open textbooks into a Canvas native format and shared those on Commons, but they weren't marked as open textbooks, which made finding them somewhat challenging. So this feature to enable the sharing of and metadata of open textbooks within Commons, I think was an important step in the right direction. And alongside that, and I think this is more pertinent to the pandemic, the idea that you can share something to Canvas Commons and call it a course template, right? You can share a course shell, whether that's specific to a department or for an online program, and mark that as a template so it's easier for instructors and designers to find those amidst the myriad of other resources and commons. One of the other things that we released last year is what we call analytics quick reports. So of course, you know that there are new course analytics in Canvas, released a couple of years ago. We've been continuously improving those. Quick reports, though, is the idea that an instructor within their course can actually run a report and download what I would call small data from that course in CSV format in order to conduct their own analyses, in order to perhaps compare semester to semester in Excel or SPSS or whatever they might do. So I love the idea of enabling instructional innovators with this small data through analytics quick reports. And so Shaun, love for you to talk about a couple of things that are coming down the pipe in this regard.
Yeah,
as we transition to Shaun, 3 minutes, just warning you guys.
Thank you. Really quickly, just wanted to share, we are creating a SpeedGrader comment library and interface for faculty and graders so that they can more efficiently share common points of feedback with their students. Here you can see a representation of starting to type in, picking one of those, and also, of course, to be able to manage an entire comment library as a part of this feature. This is really exciting because of the criticality of feedback in improving learner experience. So we've shared, like Jared said, some things that we've done over the last couple of months. And if you peek into some of the things that we are doing for the rest of 2021, there's quite a bit. Just wanted to hit on some of those highlights. And then very quickly also talk about those off years, what we some of us call an innovation outlook. These are long-term research themes that we are investing a lot of time and attention in at Instructure as a whole, not just in Canvas, but the opportunities that we have to make an impact and be partners with you in innovating over the long term is something that we're very excited about.
Yeah, I would invite all of you, if you have interest in any of these research themes, and I know it looks like a lot, but we are actively researching each of these. If you have input ideas, or you just want to know, what does that mean if you're researching social learning, we'd be happy to connect you with our product leaders who are, leading the charge on these. We'd love to have a discussion with you about it because, as Shaun expressed and as Melissa full well knows, we really do depend on you guys, the feedback that you give us via the community. And this is a quick view of our product page where you can find out more about the ongoing initiatives and upcoming product releases, but also just in understanding the entire ecosystem. So I'm going to wrap up here with this quote by the authors John Seeley Brown and Paul Duguid from The Social Life of Information, an oldie but goodie, right? That paradoxically, the way ahead is to not look forward, but to look around. And so when we think about what we spend our limited resources on in Canvas land, our vision, both literally and metaphorically, would be terribly limited if we just thought about what's coming up or what people are saying about the future. But that we have to look back at the history of education, the history of Canvas, those founding pillars, that original vision. We have to look at what's happening now, both in the teaching and learning environment, but also in the world around us, and then blend that with what may be coming down the pipe in order to best find our way forward. So totally depend on your ideas, your criticism, your support, and always your encouragement to help us make the best choices and the best commitments so that we can find that way ahead together.
Thank you all so much for your time today. And again, if you have any further questions or feedback, feel free to use me as your touch point. It's melissa@instructure.com, and enjoy the rest of the conference. Bye,
Thanks, everybody. Have a great time.